Welcome to the lesson recording for Computer Fundamentals Week 4. You can see that Week 4 runs from April 22nd to April 28th, so it's our regular full week of work as I have them scheduled. And I've broken this down into the Tuesday work as usual, and into what I recommend for the Thursday work. Now, a couple things you can see. We're getting into topics called documents and presentations. So you're going to learn a few things about using word processing and presentation programs. You have two activities. You have project 1 that you'll do. Then you have project 3. There is a project 2, but that one you don't turn in. It's just to do on your own. And we skip the discussion that's listed as part of this unit. So I'm going to close that up. Just some reminders. I have project videos and screenshots here. These will help you do your work. I've mentioned those in announcements before or in emails before. I've mentioned it in the Getting Righted part of the course, but those things can really help you in doing your work. All right, moving on down. So here we are in Documents and Presentations unit. We'll cover this whole unit this week. First, of course, we want to get into the write-up to see what I'd like you to write about to get from this presentation. So we're going to look at, in the first section, look at how styles and headers are useful, define styles in word processor, 3 types of styles, and explain how bold and italics are different. So here we are, professional documents and presentations, introduction. And really what you want is that whatever document you put together, you want to make sure that your readers pay attention. That's the bottom line. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to talk about styles and headers, and they make your documents more consistent, the styles and headers do. And there's a way you can set up Word or your word processing program to do it automatically. So in this section, we're going to look at different applications, creating professional looking documents, create and manipulate presentations, explore styles and headers. So let's take a look at this resume. Well, what is wrong on this? Obviously you can see different typefaces being used, different types of styles, all types of things. So obviously not very well organized, is it? Not very presentable. So styles, in Word, a style is different configurations of your text. So you can have a combination of different fonts, different sizes, different colors, different emphasis, etc. So if we look at this as an example of a resume, so the top of this resume could be done like this with centered, and then it's just basic Times font. Or down here it could be centered, but then the name is larger. Or here you could center the name, put the other stuff over at the right. So there are 3 different styles that you can see. And so the ways you can do it, for any given word in a word processing program, you have 8 different choices. So look at these different combinations. So that's the variety that you have. But some things to keep in mind. You know, don't overkill, don't have overkill, make sure you're consistent, make sure you're logical. You look at this, bold, underline, and italics. Is that really needed? Seems to me like bold or underline would draw your attention to something like that. So that's some things to think about. Using bold. So bold is to highlight a specific word or text. So you can see the example right here. So they want people to really pay attention to the word not. What's underline used for? Underlining is a little bit less emphasis. Usually it's used to highlight a heading. So you can see how the underline could be used. Typical uses of italics. Italics could be used a couple of different ways. Of course, used a lot of times in bibliographies, but italics can also be used, you can see right here that's used for emphasis. So if I was saying this out loud, I wasn't the only person there that night, then my voice could almost speak italics, right? So you can see how italics can emphasize a word. Headings. You want to make your headings stand out so people know what they're looking at and look at what's important in your document. So go ahead, look through this presentation where it talks about adding and formatting headings. And Word, and I think even OpenOffice and other word processing programs have styles. So if you're in a Word program, you can go ahead and choose the different types of styles, and they're already formatted a certain way. So if you choose that style, then as you start doing your work, your typing, that style happens to whatever you type. So you don't have to do all the changes yourself. So that's called styles in Word. So you can apply these predefined styles. You get your whole style list. So like it says up here, you can quickly change the look of a document by changing the style definition that you have. And look at this whole formatting menu that you have for different styles. So to create a new style, you see that you highlight whatever word you want to have that particular style. Then you click New Style, enter the name of the new style. So this is where you would create a new style. You can see there are 5 steps. So you end up creating a new style, and you're going to call it like this person, this sample, they're going to call it My Heading 2. And then they would be able to call up that style anytime they wanted to use it. So those are the steps to do a style, a custom style. And then once you make that style, then it's ready to go. So you can see right here the word participants. That's the style that was just created in this document. So in summary, we looked at bold, italics, and underline and how they're effective use of emphasis. Too much can be overkill and makes documents hard to read. Using style as a way to keep your document consistent, and you can customize styles. In the Project 1 assignment, the first assignment for this unit, you can see that you're going to find an example of a well-used emphasis, poorly used emphasis, example of well-used style, example of poorly used style headings. And you're going to submit a word processor document describing those samples and providing them. So your document should have 2 sections, one for emphasis and one for heading. Create your own style in each of those. Cite your sources, include a scanned image of the print media if you found it as a print document. So you can, as always, you can click right here, and this tells you what to do. Now this says to go look for print media, or you can look for online media that has these styles. And one thing I'll let you, that give you good examples of these things. One thing I'll let you do, if you want, you can go ahead and create your own. So if I was going to create my own, I would just highlight these 4 things right here, right click copy, then I'd paste it into a Word document. Then underneath this one, I would go ahead and create something that looks like good emphasis. Then underneath this one, I would create something that looks like poor emphasis. Then underneath this one, I would create a good style, heading style, and under this I would create a poor heading style. So you can go ahead and create your own if you want to, if you can't find other examples. So that's the first assignment. So now we're going to move into section 3. And let's go look at the Class Connect write-up. See if we answered, so how are styles and headers useful? Talked about that. Define styles in word processing. Give 3 types of styles. Explain how bold and italic are used differently. I talked about those things. Okay, section 3, 4 pitfalls in using color, meaning 4 bad things about using color. And 2 methods used to select multiple items in a window. So here we are now in section 3, shading patterns and colors. So in this section, we're going to look at how to create professional documents, how to create and manipulate presentations and documents, and explore shadings, patterns, and colors. Here's some pitfalls for color. So you can see there are about 6 pitfalls listed here. So one might be the color on your screen might be different when it's printed on paper. Laptop screen might be different when it's projected on a projector. Some people are colorblind, especially people that have red-green colorblind. Color is much more expensive to print. Too much color can be distracting, and color documents, when they're then printed in black and white, it can be hard to read. So those are some pitfalls you need to keep in mind. And if you don't need color, then don't use color. Now, some different types of emphasis. You can see that in these different spreadsheets, you can see how color can really emphasize information. I really like this one right here, the rainfall measurement and how they've used those colors. So it can emphasize and can really help the reader figure out what they're looking at. Reverse type is a good way. Although the big thing with this is somebody prints this out with a black and white printer, look how much of their black printer ink, their blue printer ink or whatever they're going to be using. So you really want to be careful with using reverse type like that. Red, yellow, green, this is an interesting way to do it. So let's say, this is for a business, things a business has to do. So red are things that are probably really important, green are least important, yellow is quite important. So you can tell which things need to be done first. Or in this case, which ones are behind schedule. So red, green, and yellow is a great way to demonstrate the necessity of getting something done. Using colors and diagrams. You can see how useful this can be. This is using, does this add value to it? I think this does add value to it to a certain degree. But then here's a different way to do it. And this is one way. What they're doing here is they're just changing some styles. But this is where you can select different objects. So if you look right here to select different objects, you hold down the control key and click the different ones. So in this case, a person had this on their screen, then they held down control and they clicked that arrow, that arrow, that arrow, and it chose all three at the same time. So that's one way you can check multiple items at once. Another way, of course, to get multiple items, says right here, just use the mouse drag. So if I wanted to select everything on this here, I would click right to the top left and then I could drag right across it and it would select everything. But again, if I want to select everything, I can do that, use my mouse with drag, or I can use the control key and just click on the items I want. So that's two ways to select multiple items. Now there's another great way to do it, isn't it? So this says, the green means go, just go right through those processes. If you check this status of whatever the document is, and if it fails, then there you give the red. So people can definitely see the go and the stop. So that's a good way to emphasize things. Now this is just a practice assignment. Create some documents, play around with formats, styles, patterns, colors, etc. Okay, section 4. So let's go to the Class Connect write-up and look at section 3 first. Pitfalls to using color, we looked at those. 2 methods to use to select multiple items, we talked about that, right? Section 4, how many times spelling error is no big deal? Give an example of when a spelling error could be a big deal. What are the steps to set up automatic spell checking in Word? So this says up here, many times spelling error is no big deal. If it's an email to a friend or a text to a friend, that's probably not a big deal. But what about a spelling on a resume or spelling on a letter to a potential employer or a letter to college? You definitely don't want to have those things happen. In this section, we're going to look at common spelling mistakes and errors, explore spell checking, automatic spell checking, and create professional documents. So using spell check, all of you probably know how to use spell check. So you can watch that video if you'd like to. But you can control spell check. So you can go into your options in your word processing program and look at all the different things you can change with spell check. Check grammar as you type. Is that a useful thing? Or check spelling as you type. I find that as a pain. I like to do this spell check after, but you can set your spell check and your grammar check up automatically in Word and probably in OpenOffice. So spelling as you type. So this just tells you a little bit about what spelling as you type would do. So you can try to find the answer to this and then check there to check if you got the answer correct. And how Word can help you correct document errors. So kind of watch this, see what's happening as this person is typing. So of course Word is telling them that the word brown, MS Word does not recognize that, so then you could right click on it and then choose the word brown to fix it as you go along. Manually correcting, so that's what that just did. Right click on the misspelled word and you'll see some suggestions. And you can also add words to the dictionary or ignore the spelling. And to add words to the dictionary, often some of the professional things I type have acronyms, like letters that stand for words. And spell check doesn't recognize those, but I can add that to the my dictionary, and then it won't give me that as an error anymore. Grammar checker. Okay, we're ready when you're ready. If you have grammar checker turned on, of course it will find out that your is not the correct your, hopefully. Catching a double word. Read that and see if you can find the double word mistake in there. Double words are often hard to find. Common spelling and grammar mistakes. Loose for lose. It is for its. They are for their or their. And you know some of these, and some of you have those types of errors. Homophones can be errors. Ice cream versus ice cream, depend versus deep end. So in summary, how to use autocorrect we looked at, how to detect and correct spelling and grammar, common mistakes. Now the one thing about spelling and grammar, spelling particularly, it will only find, spell checkers will only find words that are spelled incorrectly. Spelling checking won't find words that are spelled correctly but are the wrong words. That's why it's important for you to always review your work yourself. Look it over, make sure things are correct. Don't always rely on spell checking. This is a discussion on spell checking. So think about, and we're not going to do the discussion, but think about it. What is some embarrassing grammar or spelling check things you've had? And I had a bad one last semester with sending out an announcement of a live Class Connect session, and instead of typing the word live, I accidentally typed the word love, because the I and the O are next to each other. So it said join the Love Class Connect session later today. So reading over our work is really important. So that was section 4. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up as we move into section 5 and look at section 4. We checked all those things, good. In section 5, what are the two methods to add animations to slide presentations? So now we're going to look at PowerPoint or presentations, and there are two ways to put animations. You can do what's called a slide transition or what's called a slide animation, and we'll learn about the differences in those, but those are the two methods to make your presentation come alive. So we're going to create and manipulate PowerPoints, explore the slide transitions, and look at professional presentations. So slide transition. Slide transition is how a slide program moves from one slide to the next. So fade to black, like in a movie, then your slide would be on your screen that would slightly fade into the background in black. So this talks about slide, how you can change those things. So slide presentation or slide transition from one slide to the next. Adding transitions, you can select all types of transitions. You can change the speed. You can add sound to a transition. Select a timer to make the transition happen automatically, or put the transition on every slide. Now, one thing I would suggest, if you do use transitions on a slideshow, you probably want the same transition from all the slides. Don't put like horizontal blinds on some slides and vertical blinds on the other, because that can take away or detract from the presentation. Now, selecting a transition, so watch this tutorial to learn about selecting transitions. Some guidelines with transitions. So limit the types. So I said that a minute ago, limit the types of transitions. Pick and use no more than 3 different types. Don't just use random transitions. Be careful in using slow transitions. Some people will become bored if the transition is too slow, but then if it's too fast, they might not be able to read the information. So that was transitions. So now there are animations. Now, animations are to make things happen on a particular slide. So like this animation right here, or this slide, this might have these dice pop in after the words have popped in. So animation is what happens on a specific slide. So watch this little presentation. It talks about animations. Guidelines about animations. Speed. Make sure it's not too fast or not too slow. Not every slide needs animations. Only make them use them as emphasis. Custom animation. So this is where you want to do whatever to make your slide presentation look better. So you can see that in this one, what things could we animate? Well, we could make these squares, this square come in first, then that arrow come in first, then that arrow come in first, then that arrow come in, then that arrow, then that arrow, or then this box. So these arrows come and boxes come in one at a time. Then at the end, the fail arrow might come in, and then the fail box might come in. So you could make those animations different. Okay, the steps to do the custom animation. So you can see that you have your slide right here, and then you choose slideshow custom animation, and you start moving forward with that. And you can choose animation on each object. So you can see right here that object is highlighted, so you're going to put the effect on that particular object. So you do the animations on individual objects. So you can see how this is going to be the checkerboard entrance of that box. And you finish it, and you can look to make it run you can test it to see how it works out for you. Then exit effects. So there are some other effects you can put in. So there's not only entrance effects of information, but exit, so you can make boxes disappear. So in summary, we looked at slide transitions, animations, and some custom animations. Now here's an assignment that you're going to do, and if you remember when we were in Computer Fundamentals, the first one, you created a science experiment in PowerPoint. And you had called it Science Experiment 2. Now you may not have that, but that's okay. But what your job for this assignment is, you're going to add animation to that Science Experiment 2 that you created. And if you look at this, you must use at least 3 animations. At least one of the animations must apply to 2 or more objects. So let's click on the assignment document, see everything it says. So again, you're going to open up Science Experiment 2, and if you don't have Science Experiment 2, then you can just make a PowerPoint, a one-slide PowerPoint, and add items to it to fulfill the requirements. So again, what you're going to do says you can do a step-by-step entrance and exit, or you can do some sort of motion or movement. You must have at least 3 animations. At least one of the animations must apply to 2 or more objects at the same time. So what you could do is, if you need to create a different presentation, if you don't have your Science Experiment 2, if you don't have that from the first word processing program or course, you can go ahead and create your own. So maybe you can create a presentation on how to make toast or how to brush your teeth. Then you can have 3 or 4 steps. maybe a picture of a toothbrush, a picture of a tube of toothpaste, and then it goes to the next step, and then a picture of teeth or something. So be creative, have a little bit of fun with that, but really what you need to do is make sure you have those things fulfill those requirements. So I can run that presentation. So that's assignment 3. Now we're getting into the last section here, and we want to go to the Class Connect write-up. So what are the 2 methods add animations? We talked about that. And now on 6, give an example of copying information from one MS Office application to another. Why would you do it, and between which programs would you do it? So here we are on the last section of this presentation. So looking at charting in PowerPoint versus Excel. So the nice thing about Office is it makes it easy to take things from one program to the other. And sometimes what people would do is they could take a chart that they make in Excel. Like a couple weeks ago, we had the gasoline charts. Take that chart, right-click on it, copy, and then put it in a PowerPoint, and then they can make a PowerPoint about that chart. That's one example. So in this section, we're going to look at how to create and manipulate PowerPoints, explore Excel charts within a PowerPoint, and create presentation. So copying a spreadsheet from Excel to PowerPoint, well, you know how to do that. You could just highlight the whole spreadsheet, then hit copy, then paste it right into PowerPoint. So to copy the data table, so select all the cells you want to copy, and then go through the copy command, and go into PowerPoint and hit paste, and you have it right there. Now some default behavior, which means, you know, how does PowerPoint and Excel, how do they work together automatically? Well, you can see that when you paste things in, it may not look exactly like you want it, so then you'd have to go in and redo some of the data, the formatting and things like that. You can paste it as a picture. So that's one way that you could do it. Of course, you can't change data. If you put stuff in a PowerPoint as a picture, you can't change data. So there are a couple of different ways that you could do it. So this just talks about, you know, moving a table, a chart into a PowerPoint. So pasting charts from Excel. So you can copy from PowerPoint into Excel also. So when you take items from a PowerPoint into Excel, those are actually objects. So they really don't get embedded into the Excel. You just kind of sit on top of the spreadsheet, like a picture or something like that. And you really can't do much with them, but you can put them into that Excel if you wanted to. So this just talks about, you know, you get a phone list from people and you want to make it into Excel. So you select the data, then you put text to columns. So this is where you can select the data and you can make it be column type data. So again, if I had this in PowerPoint or even in a Word document, if I had something like this, I could highlight that, copy, and then I could go ahead and paste that into Excel as text to columns, and Excel would figure it out that it needs to be in columns. So in summary, we looked at copying tables and charts in PowerPoint, copying objects, and then moving information into columns in Excel. So a review for all of this unit. For Documents Presentations unit, we did all this. Looked at styles and headers, shading, charts in Excel and PowerPoint, bold, underline, italics, selecting multiple items, spell check, grammar. We looked at all of that. So in the end, you have the unit exam. So right over here is always unit exam. Here's the unit exam preview. Make sure you go through the preview first before you do the exam. So you do not get to redo exams because I give you the preview right there. So I'm going to go up to the assignment. So here's what we did. So for this week, you're going to have project 1 you'll turn in and project 3 you'll turn in. and then of course the exam. And I don't have the exam listed on here. I'll have to get that listed. But thanks for watching. I look forward to your work coming in, and if you're behind in work, please get your work caught up. Thanks everybody. Bye.